So, good morning, everyone. I am here in the DaCosta studio along with Jason Scott in his studio. Jason is the director of Harcourt Auctions. And Jason, thanks for joining us.
Pleasure, not a problem.
First of all, I just want to reach out. Glad to see your smiling face and check in on you and your family. And I trust all is well in the Scott household.
Yeah, thank you. We are doing well. As you know, my wife Lara and I are expecting our first child any day now. So things are well. We're in a state of uncertain preparation. You know, we think we know it's coming, but of course we don't. So other than that, things are well. Things are busy. Work is chucking along. So I can't complain, mate. How about yourself?
Well, good. Same here. I don't have a brand new one on the way, but I have a 1-year-old granddaughter that my wife helps care for. And that, keeps us focused and motivated. And, there's always light at the end of this tunnel. And this situation too shall pass, as we all know. So again, but thank you
Absolutely.
for joining us. Let's get into this. And I just wanted to invite you here primarily for my goodwill. Obviously, I really appreciate our friendship and your vast wealth of knowledge, but also to kind of relate some of the things that you see in the marketplace pertaining to this particular crisis and Southern California real estate, so I can better inform my clientele and share that with my friends and so on Facebook. So let me start this off by just asking right off, what do we say to sellers that are thinking of putting their home on the market in this trying time?
Well, I think that just like any time that we put a home onto the market, David, it's just understanding the client and why somebody wants to sell. I think that we get asked the question irrespective of COVID-19. We get asked the question all the time of when we should put our property on the market, when's the best time to sell, and whether that's seasonality, whether that's financial gain, or the most buyers in the market, or they're all related, but whatever it might be. And obviously COVID-19 has kind of thrown a spanner in the works here, and so there is that curiosity of is it a good time to sell right now? Is it not so much a good time to sell right now? And I think, like always, the real and the true answer to that is it depends on the seller. If the seller has a desire to sell and it's the right timing for them to make a move or make a decision and make some changes, then it's the right time to sell. As far as results and as far as the market and things like that at the moment are concerned, things are really, really still going very, very well. And this epidemic and the whole health concern and the health situation is out there, which is obviously very, very real. But that has kind of taken a shine off or taken a distraction to the fact that the market is still very, very transient. It is still moving quite quickly. Home prices are still up. Inventory as a whole is still down, as it has been the last 6 months or so by comparison to last year. But buyers, and very well qualified buyers, are actively engaged in the market. There are a lot of interested parties in properties at the moment that are looking at making decisions that aren't 1-year decisions, which have inevitably COVID-19 is going to be a hurdle in the road of history. It's going to change certain things, obviously, but it's not going to stop things. And I think it's important to remember that, and buyers know that, and sellers know that as well. And so if buyers are making that decision for themselves based on interest rates, based on the fact that they are looking at making a move for shelter for a long period of time, be it 5, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it might be, then they are confidently making those decisions. Similarly to sellers, of course, is that they have an opportunity to potentially capitalize on what is the end of a very long and a very strong cycle by comparison to the last correction, because I do think that this inevitably will have, as it is having now, quite a severe economic effect globally, but here in the United States as well. And it will, of course, in turn bring a bit of a real estate price correction as well, as far as affordability and so on. but we haven't seen that yet, and there will be a bit of a delayed fuse as far as that's concerned. So a good opportunity either way you look at it.
Now, in terms of our day-to-day operations, me being a realtor and still staying somewhat active, just to again bring the viewers up to date on what's been going on. Um, a week ago, realtors or real estate was classified in the state of California as a non-essential service. This Monday, Monday the 28th, I believe, if my dates are right, I've lost track of time.
Yeah, Saturday the 28th, I think it was. Yeah, anyway.
29th, and then CAR, our local association for California, decided it was an essential service. So what's the difference? I mean, what as a realtor can I do and what can't I do in working with a client that wants to be worked with?
Yeah, it's been a confusing 7 to 10 day period of time for real estate agents across the state of California, and I think for that matter, across most of the country, but particularly California. After a week and a half or so ago, the California state governor Newsom came out and effectively put the stay-at-home order in place and shut down all non-essential services, and there was really quite a period of uncertainty for agents and for home sellers and for buyers out there, where things really did hit the brakes, because it wasn't so much that we were deemed non-essential. It was just the fact that there was no clarity that was provided particular to the real estate industry as to where we sat, because the finance sector was deemed to be an essential service. And in a transaction capacity, real estate is very much, a financial industry. And so that, and then you've got construction as well, which was deemed to be an essential service. And then you have new home builds, so on and so forth. So that too was deemed to be an essential service. So there was just some unknown territory there for a week or so, where we didn't quite know what we could do or what we couldn't do. The advice coming out of our association, being the California Association of Realtors, was that we are seeking more clarification from the governor's office, from the state, to figure things out. In the meantime, however, what we want you to do is effectively cease most to all business operations, as far as what we traditionally deem as a business operation, being listing presentations, face-to-face listing presentations, showing properties, open houses, a lot of those kinds of things. Being out and about in the community effectively, which of course makes perfect sense. That hasn't changed, even though we are now deemed as a essential service. It's just given us more flexibility as far as what we can do. Open houses are still not allowed, not permitted, given of course that is a congregation of the public, and obviously that would be ill-advised at the moment with regards to the health concerns that are out there at the moment. But effectively what that it does allow us to do is to still continue with the transactions and still continue to help service those that want to sell and want to buy, in that we have so many things and so many tools that are available to our industry today that now really coming to light, and now coming to show their strength, as far as Matterport tours, as far as video tours, as far as online saleability, as far as things like what we're doing right now, David, which is Zoom meetings, Microsoft Team meetings. Listing property, selling property is still able to be done. It's just done slightly differently. And there still is a little bit of a grey matter as far as some private showings, when you do have somebody that is committed to a property, and really that kind of comes down to buyer and seller alike, in order to kind of remove some liability from the agent standpoint. And that's kind of a whole nother kettle of fish there. But there is some clarity, and we are proud and happy to now have some of those restrictions alleviated. But of course, we're very cautious in understanding the severity of everything going on.
Great. And thanks for that background and feedback. And let's bring it a little closer to home. And, Harcourts, Southern California, and San Diego. Obviously, one of the reasons I joined Harcourts a little over 2 years ago was the fact that we can bring flexibility to the marketplace and a choice. We can bring buyers and sellers choice. So we can do the traditional process, or we can do our non-distressed luxury auction platform. How suitable is this auction process, Jason, in this current market?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you ask someone who's a
And you're a
bias,
little biased. I'll grant you that. Yes.
yeah, to all of this. But you know, I think again, David, much like if it's the right time to sell, the right time to buy, you know, what is auction more or less relevant now? You know, my opinion, your opinion is akin to this, is that it's more relevant. However, the reasons for its relevancy don't change, irrespective of a good market or a slow real estate market or an economic downturn or anything like that. The reasons why a home seller and the reasons why a buyer pursue auction still stays the same. It really provides a bit of a spotlight onto the property, provides more exposure to the property, it provides more comfort to a seller and a buyer, provides clarity, provides a deadline. No homeowner wants to come onto the market to be on the market. As you well know, David, you know, people make the decision to sell to be sold. They don't make the decision to sell just to be on the market to sell.
Yes.
They want that decision done as quickly as possible. And it's our job to help facilitate doing that as quickly as possible, providing the best possible service and doing it in getting the very best result. And part of that is how we go about that, and the exposure that we're able to get really helps us leverage where those results come from. And what auction just really allows us to do is expose the property to more people, leverage that marketplace, give clarity to the buyers as to where the value of the home is, give clarity to the sellers as far as where the home is, and importantly at the moment, make sure that we have a clean contract, a clean seller, clean buyer coming together and moving on with the sale of the property. So those things do not change irrespective of the market. But when we look back historically, when there are, you know, you go back to 9/11, you go back to the GFC, and you go back to the turn of the millennium with the .com situation, as markets take a downturn, transactions pick up, and as markets take a downturn, days on market seem to extend, and so that's where kind of auctions strength really comes to light, in that we're able to really keep properties moving over, getting the very best result in a very timely fashion. So it's beneficial for all parties.
Great. Again, great information. So I understand too that, and I know I'm privy to this information, obviously, but again, for the benefit of the audience, in our live auction scenario, whereas typically when we held them here in San Diego, we'd have, 80, 90 people in the room sometimes. How do we handle that in today's
Yeah, I mean, look, our live auctions again haven't shifted too much. We've just have to, just like the whole industry, and not just the real estate industry. I mean, businesses right across the board, irrespective of what area you're working in, have to make some adaptations at the moment. Have to make some business shifts. We're very fortunate in obviously not being able to foresee the pandemic that's kind of been out and about over the last few months with regards to COVID-19, but just in general, business offering and accessibility to our clientele and to buyers alike. We've very fortunate to now be in a position where the last 2 years we've had online platforms. We've had for our live auction events, we've always been able to offer the online bidding and transaction capacity. We have our own app for iOS or Android devices, for iPads, for computers, whatever it might be, for people to log on, watch the auction live, real time, and bid, transact, see exactly what's going on. And we're very fortunate for our clients being the agents for our business, particularly, that they have had an online campaign management system available. They've had an online booking system. They've had an online document system in order to upload, download, provide the information as necessary. We've got the connections there for all of the statutory disclosures, and down to marketing as far as Matterport or whatever it might be. We do video walkthroughs of property, things like that. So we were already pretty well positioned for the unforeseeable, which is obviously what we're in at the moment. So it hasn't really had any slowdown to our business, thankfully. It's just making the best of the situation. So instead of having, auctions every week where we would have 150 people in a room with an auctioneer and, 100 people online, we've now got 400 people online and just the auctioneer in a room in front of a camera, either taking telephone bids or using the online scope there. So there's just those slight shifts, but the result, the offering, thankfully, again, hasn't been the same. We haven't been caught behind the eight ball, so to speak, with now needing to develop some of these things. We were lucky that we already had some of things set up.
That's great. And, this auction platform is something that our company has been doing for a little over 130 years now. This is just a fantastic process. And like I said, I'm grateful because I get to give my clients a choice, the traditional process or this, which obviously, as you well know, has upwards of a 90% success rate in a relatively shorter sell-in period. So I will get this link out after the fact to some of my people here in the San Diego area, and they can log in and see their first auction, and they don't have to bid necessarily, correct? They can just log in as a abstract.
Yeah, you don't even have to. It's not so. It's a login system if you were to be bidding online, but to come along and watch anyone anywhere in the world can jump onto the website, and if the auctions are live, you click on the button that says, "Hey, we're live," and you can just watch. And of course, to participate is a slightly different conversation, but no, we encourage anyone to watch. A week ago, we had 22, I think, properties went to market, went to auction. I think we had 6,800 or so viewers online watching along, mostly here in the United States. We had a couple up in Canada as well. Actually, I think we had about a decent number in Canada, and it was really good to see. And again, as these shifts have happened in the market, it's provided some strength as far as some of those offerings with regards to people seeing that value and still being able to make some of those decisions. Like I say, there are people out there that want to make real estate transactions happen right now, being homeowners and home buyers. And there are companies and there are agents out there that can facilitate that right now, and there are companies and agents that cannot. And those that can are doing the business, and those that cannot are hoping this passes pretty quickly, as we all are, of course.
Well, again, thank you for technology. That's just been a lifesaver. And, before we wrap up, thanks again so much for taking time and presenting to us today. And I want to share this video, like I said, here locally. And well, whoever wants to log in on the internet and catch it on YouTube, or it'll be on my Facebook page, DaCostaProperties.com. Before we close, you've done an excellent job of telling us where we are now. What happens? What do you foresee? And I am putting you on the spot. 4 to 6 months from now.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 2020, and looking forward into the future is pretty blind. But I think that there will be a few different effects to all of this. I think that the economically speaking, industries, countries, governments, and right down to the everyday public cannot afford for things to stay halted for too long a period of time before entire industries go broke and entire countries go broke as well. And so I think that obviously there is the obvious and very concerning health factor to all of this, which is the primary thing, and is and should be and will be the primary concern. From that, though, I think that as countries get on top of this, as things do start to get more and more under control, and that's going to be a relative thing, I think, being under control. But of course, as time passes and hopefully vaccines and so on come out, industries will fire back up, and they're going to have to fire back up here pretty quickly. I would think that that businesses right across the board are going to be slow for effectively the entire first 6 months of this year. But I do think that things will pick up again here at the latter 6 months of this year. I think from a real estate industry capacity, as a whole. I think that right now there is plenty to still be done. There is less property on the market by a substantial number, some 40%. So it is a great opportunity to capitalize again on what has been and still is a good market with low interest rates. I think that when COVID-19 does slowly subside, I don't think it's going to go away forever, but when it does slowly subside here and we get on top of it and industries come back, there is confidence back in the marketplace again and getting out and about. I think there is going to be a surge of property on the market, which is in turn going to probably heighten competition, but lower prices. I don't necessarily think that buyer confidence or buyer affordability is going to come back as quickly as sellers want to come back on the market, which is why I think now is a good time to capitalize on strength on both sides. And then I do think that there's going to be a slight real estate correction here over the not too distant future, in the not too distant future, I should say. But as far as the lasting effects of COVID-19, I think that in the next couple of months here, things will get not back to normal, but back up and running. And again, businesses are just going to have to make those changes and those adaptations as we try and deal with it the best way that we can. It's obviously an unfortunate global situation, and it's one that countries and industries and we don't take lightly, and nor should we. But again, for everyone's sake, there are some necessities in life, being food, medical, and shelter. And shelter being our breadbasket, David, is something that it's going to be something that people need to make decisions on. And unfortunately, there are going to be some situations here where home owners, should we stay in a shutdown period of time, they're not going to have many decisions before they're going to have to make some moves and make some changes. So we want things to fire back up and not be in those situations. But I think that it will slow down here.
Granted. Well, without further ado, I want to wish you and your family well again. Thank you very much for taking time out. And you enjoy your beautiful family, and blessings to you, and see you in the real estate world. Thanks again.
Always a pleasure, David. Thank you, mate.
Ciao.